Have you ever watched the person you love turn into a stranger right before your eyes? The screen of her phone cast a pale, sick glow on her face at 2 a.m., her thumb moving in a blur. She thought I was asleep. She was wrong. I saw the name Julian and a string of messages that felt like a physical blow, knocking the air from my lungs. It was the little details that unraveled everything. The faint scent of a cologne that wasn't mine clinging to her clothes. The sudden, unexplained overtime at the downtown Chicago law firm where she worked. She'd become a ghost in our own home on Astor Street, her laughter reserved for someone else, her touch cold and distant. The night I knew for sure, I followed her. I watched her step out of a cab on North Rush Street and walk into the lobby of the Peninsula, right into his arms. The mystery wasn't if she was cheating, but how deep the betrayal went. I never imagined the answer would lead me into a darkness so profound it threatened to swallow me whole. A darkness tied to 3 other women who had simply vanished. If you genuinely enjoy our stories, please subscribe to the channel. Tell us where you're from and what time it is right now. It's always fascinating to know how far our story flows. The first few weeks were a masterclass in humiliation. I was the good husband, the reliable one, the man who worked 2 jobs so Amelia could have the life she claimed she wanted. I'd see her across the dinner table, her eyes sparkling with a secret joy that had nothing to do with me. She'd talk about her day, a carefully constructed fiction, while I pictured her with him. Julian, D learned his full name from a credit card statement she'd carelessly left on the counter. Julian Croft, a high-flying wealth manager with an office overlooking the river. He was everything I wasn't. Polished, wealthy, from family money, and radiating a smug confidence that made my skin crawl. Her phone became her closest confidant. She'd take calls in the other room, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Once I picked up the extension in the office, my hand trembling. I heard her laugh, a sound so carefree and intimate it felt like a knife twisting in my gut. "He has no idea, Jules," she'd said. "He's too trusting. Too simple." Simple. That's what I was to her. A simple, predictable fool. The nights were the worst. I'd lie next to her, the space between us, a frozen chasm, her breathing even and deep while my mind screamed. I was a ghost in my own marriage, a spectator to my own life's destruction. My breakdown didn't happen with a shout. It was a quiet internal collapse. It happened in a parking garage on West Kinsey Street, after I'd spent hours sitting in my car, watching the lights of his office building, torturing myself. The rain was hammering against the windshield, blurring the city into a neon smear. I saw them leave together, his arm possessively around her waist, as they laughed and ran for a taxi. In that moment, something inside me didn't just break, it hardened. The grief curdled into something cold and sharp. The loyal, loving husband died in that driver's seat, and someone else was born. Someone strategic, someone ruthless. The next day, I started gathering proof. I wasn't just looking for evidence of an affair. I was digging for a weapon. I hired a private investigator, a grizzled ex-cop named Miller, who operated out of a dusty office in the Loop. I gave him Julian's name and a blank check. "I want everything," I told him, my voice devoid of emotion. Financials, history, relationships, everything. While Miller dug, I played my part. I became the doting husband again, but this time it was a performance. I brought her flowers, I made dinner, I listened to her lies with a patient smile, all while a cold fire burned in my chest. Every lie she told was another brick in the wall of her own prison. The first report from Miller was a bombshell. Julian Croft wasn't just a wealthy philanderer. He was a man with a disturbing pattern. 3 previous long-term partners, all wealthy women, all of whom had mysteriously disappeared after signing over significant assets to him. They were all officially listed as missing persons cases, cold and gathering dust in different jurisdictions. But Miller saw the thread connecting them all. "This guy is a black widow, but for wives," Miller said, his voice grim over the phone. "Finds them, charms them, drains them, and then they vanish." My blood ran cold. This wasn't just an affair. Amelia was swimming with a shark, and she had no idea. My plan for revenge, once a vague fantasy of social embarrassment, crystallized into something far more lethal. I wasn't just going to expose her. I was going to save her from him, only to destroy her myself. I set the traps meticulously. I started a new joint investment account, encouraging Amelia to move a large portion of her inheritance into it, under the guise of planning for our future. I knew Julian would see it as a ripe target. I had Miller install listening devices in her car and a keylogger on her laptop. I read their messages, listened to their calls, every word a drop of poison fueling my resolve. They were planning to clean me out and leave. Felt untouchable, laughing at my ignorance in their private chats. "Another month," Julian wrote. "Then we're on a beach in the Caymans, and he's a distant memory." The public exposure was a work of art. I chose the annual charity gala for her firm, a glittering event held at the Art Institute of Chicago. Amelia was in her element, dressed in a backless gown, holding a glass of champagne, the queen of her world. Julian was there, of course, a major sponsor. They thought they were being discreet, exchanging loaded glances across the crowded room. I'd arranged everything. I'd anonymously tipped off the lead detectives on all three of Julian's missing wives' cases, providing them with Miller's entire file. I also sent a copy to the managing partners of Amelia's law firm and a prominent reporter from the Chicago Tribune. As the firm's senior partner took the stage to give the keynote address, the doors at the back of the grand hall swung open. 2 uniformed officers and 2 grim-faced detectives walked in. They moved through the silent, parting crowd and stopped directly in front of Julian Croft. "Julian Croft," one of the detectives said, his voice booming in the sudden quiet. "You're being detained for questioning in connection with the disappearance of Eleanor Vance, Maria Flores, and Catherine Shaw." A collective gasp swept the room. Every eye turned to Julian, his face a mask of disbelief. Then they turned to Amelia, who stood frozen, her face ashen, the champagne glass slipping from her fingers and shattering on the marble floor. As they cuffed Julian, the reporter's camera flashed, capturing her look of pure, unadulterated horror. In that single, brilliant moment, her affair, her greed, and her proximity to a potential serial killer were laid bare for her entire world to see. She was ruined, socially, professionally, and as the subsequent legal battles would prove, financially. The aftermath was quiet. The trial was a media circus, but I watched it from a distance. Julian was convicted, his smug facade crumbling under a mountain of evidence. Amelia was disbarred for conspiracy and fraud related to the investment account. She lost everything. Her career, her money, her friends. I see her sometimes, a ghost haunting the city she once thought she owned. She works at a diner out in the suburbs, her face etched with a bitterness that has aged her a decade. She never looks at me, but I know she sees me. I sold the house on Astor Street and moved into a sterile, modern apartment overlooking the lake. It's clean, it's quiet, and it's empty. People tell me I should be happy, that I won. But revenge is a hollow victory. It doesn't heal the wound. It just cauterizes it with fire, leaving behind a permanent, ugly scar. It's a cold comfort, knowing I destroyed the woman I once loved. Sometimes late at night, I pull out the old photo albums and wonder when exactly the girl I married died.